Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I am super excited about this. I know I say that every time, but it's just amazing people that I get on here, and I'm super excited to share this guest with you as well. And I met her a couple of years ago, and you're going to see why I'm excited about this as we get into this conversation, because she is an amazing person, and I know we're going to say that word probably a whole lot this evening. Let me introduce you. So if you're not satisfied with the results you're producing in your business, and you're experiencing lack of confidence, low self-esteem, and a lack of fulfillment, then listen up. Let me introduce you to a woman who I get the pleasure of calling a friend. Her name is Sandra Bravo, but you get to call her your new secret weapon to success, because she is about to share with you how you can increase your level of confidence, fulfillment, and self-esteem while experiencing the joy of living in your life purpose. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm so excited, and it's so good to see you. This is the only way we get to connect.
Yes, it's been a while. It was through Messenger, and now we get to do this. So how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to see you and get to chat and get to know your audience.
Yes. So on my show, I like to talk about the hero's journey. Okay, and I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's what happened, your path of initiation, and then coming back and then sharing all this greatness with all the people that you're sharing with your amazing book and all your speaking and training and stuff. So if you could just share with us your hero's journey of how you grew up, where you ended up, what happened, and what put you on this path that you're on right now, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm originally from Mexico, hence the accent. But I've been in Australia for nearly 20 years, so the accent's all mixed now. It's hard for people to guess. And when I came here, I used to work for a company called Flight Centre Limited, which is the largest chain of travel agencies in Australia. And I was there for nearly 10 years. And I love my job. I was managing different agencies, and we got to party a lot and travel and have fun. And it was all great. I made good money. I got to travel. And then I had my babies, and I'm the mother of two beautiful daughters, Alana, who is 11, and Brianna, who is 8 now. And after my second baby was born, I was feeling really lost. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I felt like I was at that stage in my life where, when you're little, you're supposed to go to kindy. When you finish kindy, you're supposed to go to primary. When you finish primary, secondary, and high school, and, perhaps a university degree, and then maybe you go traveling, and then you get a job, and then you get married, and and then it's like, okay, and what's next? I got the job, I got married, I traveled, I did the university, I have my babies, and so I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life next. And I felt like, so me being from Mexico, and my baby's daddy is from England, so we didn't have any family here in Australia. And so for me to keep working, I had to take my kids to childcare. And it was really hard because I had to, now I live in beautiful Gold Coast, which is like the San Diego of, the States. But back then I was in Melbourne, where the weather is like 4 seasons in one day. And so I had to drag them out of bed at 6 in the morning when it's like cold and dark and miserable. And then take them to childcare and have them, cry and pull off my lap and say, "Mommy, don't leave me." And it was heartbreaking having to wipe off my own tears and take these little hands off my lap to go to work, 10, 12 hours, just to come back at the end of the day when it's dark and cold and raining and miserable again, to pick them up all snotty and cranky, and barely have time just to bath them, feed them, put them to bed, and then do the same thing the next day. And it was depressing, Jeff. I just felt like I was trapped. And, I thought I can leave my job, stay home with my babies, but then I'm going to give up my lifestyle and being able to travel to see my family to Mexico, once, twice, 3 times a year like I do. And or I can keep my job and then miss out on being with my babies and see all their milestones and, be a present mom. And so I mean, call me greedy or whatever you want, but I wanted to have both. I wanted to be there for my babies, but I also wanted to keep my lifestyle. And So I started thinking it's so unfair for women, especially having to make these decisions. So I felt like I was facing this T intersection, you know, I do this or I do that, but I want to have both. And that's what really threw me into my path of personal development and soul searching, and, you know, trying to figure out there's got to be a way to have them both. And so I made it my mission to find out how I could have both. And, you know, that's how I came across these seminars from Tia Becker and Success Resources. And I enrolled into them. And I was, whenever I wasn't at work, I was, you know, growing and educating myself. And soon enough, I discovered that my journey was to be a public speaker, because that's what I love. And I love empowering others and, you know, just helping others believe in themselves. And it started mainly with women, because once I finished my seminars, they were actually looking for a speaker, and I went to this event where they recruit them. And it was a very intimate event and very harsh. You know, you're on a stage and they break you apart and you get tough feedback. And out of the 67 people in the room, they chose only one to start training with them. And, you know, that person was me. Wow. And it was life-changing, because I visualized it, Jeff, like every morning. I put on my vision board. I'm a big fan of vision boards. And back then I had my entire wall in my bedroom just with, you know, all these pictures, positive affirmations, and all the things I wanted. And one of them was, I want to be a speaker for Success Resources. And every morning I woke up at 5 a.m. and I sat on my bed and I visualized the moment when it all happened. And I wouldn't get out of my bed until I got that split second of a feeling of certainty of, you know, I've got this is for me. And sure enough, like 6 months later, whatever, is when I went to the event. And I was so nervous. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep for 5 days, because I knew it was my only chance and I wanted it so bad. But, you know, I manifested it. It happened just the way I said. I remember calling my mom and my husband at the time in tears, saying, oh my God, like I got it. And so I quit my job after 10 years. And I started doing events with Success Resources. And I knew that my niche was going to be somewhere in personal development. But, you know, personal development is a big ocean. So I needed to define my niche. And it was when I was speaking at different stages in different parts of the world with Success Resources that I realized I was constantly attracting women. And they would come to me off the stage and go, oh my God, your story really inspired me. And, you know, and then I realized these women were so talented and they had all these gifts and they had all these dreams and desires. And when I asked, why are you not doing it? You know, they gave me a million reasons. But I realized, Jeff, that regardless of the country, the different cultures, the different languages, the theme was the same across the board. And it was the fact that they didn't believe they were good enough to do it. And that was the only thing holding them back. So that's when I went, hold on, someone needs to teach these women that they are amazing, that they can do anything they want, and help them believe in themselves. Because, you know, they're also talented in different areas, but they just put themselves down and they haven't got that someone to support them. And so that's when I launched AmaSSSing, and I decided that I would go into, you know, as a woman, Jeff, like you can tell me, hey, Sandra, you know, you're beautiful and you're smart, and maybe I don't have a son, but let's say I had a son, and maybe my brother, and maybe my dad, and that means one thing. But when another woman tells a woman, you know, you're very talented, you're beautiful, you're smart, whatever, it means a complete different thing. And right. Just like they say, a successful man always needs a strong woman behind holding his back. It's the same for us women. You know, a strong woman needs a tribe of women behind holding her back. And that's what I made it my mission, to go out and, you know, support these women. And interestingly enough, though, living in Australia where the law protects women in getting high CEO roles and things like that, men seem to be getting more and more weaker. You know, like it's in Australia, it's getting harder to find like masculine men that are still confident and want to protect you. And, you know, as women, it doesn't matter how much we can multitasking, how many balls we can hold in the air, or how amazing we are, we still crave the image of a strong masculine man that wants to protect me and, you know, take me. And so I was just saying to one of my clients a couple of days ago, maybe I just need to stop empowering women and just move on to men, because in Australia we need it. You know, Mexico is different. Men are men, but in Australia at least. So anyway, and the whole brand of AmaSSSing, Jeff, with the triple S, became like that because of my accent. Because I just can't seem to pronounce the Z the same way you guys do. And so every time I was on a stage, I would say to my audiences, you know, give each other a high five and say, "You're amazing." And they would make fun of me. So every time I got off a stage and they came to take a photo or to have a book signed, they would be like, "Sandra, you're amazing." And they would make fun of my accent. And that's why we just named it with triple S instead of a C.
Right. So I want to ask you, when you were in this, I'd like to call it kind of like incubation stage. You got this seed inside of you. You had this moment where you didn't want to be away from your babies anymore, and you start down this journey of self-development. How long a process was that when you had that moment of just like, now I got to change this, to the point of where you actually got to the place where you're like, I can walk away from my job, and then going, you went to T. Harv Eker. So was it MMI event? Was it an MMI event?
Yes, the Millionaire Mindset. That's correct.
Great. Yes. So talk about that, because I know for a lot of people, entrepreneurs especially, we all know the statistics. 9 out of 10 businesses fail within the first 3 years. Out of that, the next 5 years, another 90% of those fail. And I think for me, and please, I want to hear your input on this, is I think the biggest cause of the failure is not being aware of what to expect when you jump off into that unfamiliar place, because you get introduced to this whole new you, right? Of like, holy cow, now I've got to organize my time. I'm doing all these things, and you didn't have to do that in the corporate world, right? So talk about that, of how long it took you, and just some of the thought processes you went through, because I see so many people, they'll let their fears project onto people that have made it, and it really hinders them of going, well, they can do it, but I can't do it. But I want, you know, of really talking about that transition of what that was like for you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff, because, you know, a lot of people with full-time jobs, they go, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have my own business. And they think it's all, you know, a path made out of roses. But as you said, you have way more to do when it's your own business. There's no start time and finish time and go home and you get paid whether you did a good job or not. You know, it doesn't work that way. And unfortunately, sad that many times you hear speakers on the platform painting this picture of, oh, it's all beautiful and easy. And as you said, people throw themselves into this pool without knowing how to swim, thinking it's okay, I can learn to swim, and many times they drown. And you know, plus, I mean, I run my business from home. This is my home office, and you know, it's tough because you get interruptions all the time. You feel like, oh, maybe I should go do some cooking, or maybe I should go put the washing on, or whatever. And you know, or the kids are off to school, and all of a sudden everyone thinks, oh, I can just, you know, have them for 2 months with all the friends and everything because I work from home. So that's not working. You know what I mean? Right. And the one thing that I'm very grateful to T. Harv Eker, Jeff, is that I'll never forget at the Millionaire Mind Intensive, he clearly said, you do everything I tell you to do, and I guarantee you within 3 to 5 years, you will be financially free. And up to this day, I remember those words like echo in my head, because being an impatient me is like, oh, what? That's a long time. You mean it's not going to be like 3 days? 3 to 5 years then. But you know what? It set up the right expectation in my head to not give up whenever it got tough and I just went, this is too hard. I might as well just go back into a full-time job, you know, because I had the right expectation. And sure enough, I would say I did my Millionaire Mind Intensive. I'm pretty sure it was either November or February, because it was, one was the National Achievers Congress, the other one was the Millionaire Mind Intensive. So let's say between November and February, because I can't 100% remember. And exactly a year later, I left my full-time job, which for me was a huge leap of faith because I had been there for 10 years and it was a pretty good job. And, you know, I had my maternity leaves with both my babies and everything through that job. And another thing that I see many entrepreneurs and business owners do, Jeff, is they quit before they replace the income. And that's the worst thing you can do, because yes, you're in a high, you're all pumped, motivated, it's exciting, and you know, you're like this. And then all of a sudden you hit a plateau where you start to see reality. Oh, it's tough. I've got to work my butt off. Mm-hmm. And then by then you're running out of funds. So now the stress kicks in of, oh, I still have to pay all my bills, but this venture, this business is not giving me it yet. Right. And now, because you're so stressed, it's starting to block you from being focused and productive, because all you're thinking is, oh, it's stress, I need money to pay, you know, my mortgage or my rent or school fees or whatever it might be. And so I see it all the time when they jump off the boat too quick, and they haven't got anything else to you know, float with. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing I did. I kept my job for a full year while I was already training with Success Resources. So I did 1 year, all of my seminars as a student. I still have my job. So I did on my annual leave and my holiday, you know. And then the next year, I started contracting out to them. And the first year, I'm pretty sure I did about 17 seminars, which is a lot.
Wow.
When you add travel time going overseas, you know, I was doing Japan and Malaysia and Singapore and Thailand and Vietnam and Europe and Australia and you name it. So I did about 17 events, and it was a very tough year. I would say there's been 2 years in my life that have been the toughest, and one of them was that, because I still have my full-time job, my babies, and I was already contracting out. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't going to leave my job until I had replaced that income. And so what happened is I didn't have any more annual leave in my job because I had taken it all mm-hmm. to do my seminars as a student. Right. So at this stage, I was literally like, okay, I had 4 seminars every weekend in Asia. So like I would leave work on Thursday, go straight from work to the airport, fly overnight to Asia, get off the plane, go straight to the stage, be on the stage for 3 days, finish on Sunday night, jump in a plane, fly back home, get off the plane on Monday morning, go straight to work, all fresh, not. And, you know, back then I used to fly economy, so I was bugger. And then I would cry the entire flight on the way back because 1, I'm tired, I haven't slept. 2, I'm miserable missing my babies because I'm going from work to fly to seminar. And I remember this time I was just crying. And this lady next to me goes, are you okay? And I was like, I miss my babies. And then go home, work for 3-4 days and do the same thing, jump in a plane, go. But I knew, and I was very clear, Jeff, that it was a short-term sacrifice mm-hmm. for a long-term reward. And unfortunately, many of us I just want the reward and I want it now, you know? And if it doesn't come, then I give up. And I truly believe, Jeff, that one of the biggest reasons why business owners and entrepreneurs are not successful is because they don't stay on it long enough, because they get sidetracked with all of the other distractions. Because they're here and they know they need to stick on it 3 to 5 years, like Harv said. And what happens 10, 12, 15 months later? Oh, a shiny object. Oh, guess what I'm doing? It's awesome. Oh, I want to try that too. And then they get sidetracked, and now they're giving this main thing 10% of their energy and focus instead of giving it all you have. Mm-hmm. You gotta, you know, it's like trying to have 10 wives or 10 husbands at once. You can't. You gotta focus 100% until you make that venture successful. Then you can automate it and move on to something else or start something else. But there's no way you can start. Yes, I'm a big believer of multiple sources of income, you know, and I've created them because energetically it's amazing for the universe, because you don't have that energy of attached to it like a rash that if I lose my job, that's all I have. You know, it's like, oh, if I lose that income, well, yeah, it's what a shame, but I've got these other 5 or 6 or 7. However, you cannot go and start 7 sources of income all at once. You know, I've created them like one by one by one. And so that year was really tough, but I knew if I did it, I could then be with my babies and have that freedom of having my business and being a present mom, versus I don't do that sacrifice for a year. I'll be stuck in a full-time job forever and I want, so like a year later, I started to downgrade. Instead of doing 17 events, I did about 14, and so on. Every year I would do less, and I would do more on my own business. And then, I mean, right now for next year, I've only said yes to 4 of them. And, I'm taking more if I can in Australia, so it's less traveling time. But now, like, I'm proud to say that I can have both, and that I can be at home running my business in the school hours, and then I can be a present mom and pick up my own kids from school and come home and, come home really is more like be a taxi driver, an Uber mom, because it's like cheerleading, swimming, this, that, all their activities, and then come home and do homeworks and dinner and all of that, which I love doing, because for me it's a luxury. It means I can be with my babies, and I can be part of, I'm usually at every competition or speaking event or whatever they have at the school, and that's a luxury of being able to run my own business. And I guess that's how I became so passionate in teaching others how, yes, it is possible to have both. It is possible to have anything you want. Just need to focus and stay on it and have the right expectations.
Right. And I want to ask something. You said you started out. I'm getting an echo. Are you getting an echo?
Yeah, it just started just then.
Okay. Maybe sometimes it has to adapt. You said you started out in this journey, you were married. Okay. And I'm making the assumption that you're not married anymore. It's just you. It was a single mom. And the reason I want to ask this question is because I have worked with lots of clients, and there's been more that I haven't been able to work with because of how the spouse sees personal development, or they have this particular arrangement with their relationship and it's predictable and they know where it is and they don't want that to change, because then they might have to look at some other things. If you would talk about what happened there, or what changed, or if that was part of it, of you stepping out, because I think a lot of people, this is another thing that holds people back from stepping into, is them willing to let go of the things that aren't aligned with who they truly want to be. And I think that's a huge impact that really holds people back because of what their tribe, their relationship, whatever, and it holds them back from stepping into it because that person wants to stay there and you want to evolve. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I said there's 2 years that I remember as being the toughest in my life, one was when I was juggling a job and the speaking. The other one was when I went through my divorce, which for me was the unthinkable. I believe marriage to be for life, and I was brought up Catholic in Mexico. And what happened, everyone warned me when I started to do seminars that they used to say you have to do it together, otherwise you're going to grow apart. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. Like, I'll just come home and teach him what I learned, right? Like, he was very supportive of me doing it, but he wasn't interested. It was too woo-woo for him to do it. And so, sadly enough, we started to, grow apart. We were married for 12 years, 10 of which were amazing. And then, unfortunately, the last 2 years, we just went separate ways. And you can't force it up on people. You can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves. Right. And it's not that we need help as such. It's just that there's always another level. There's always another skin of the onion to peel. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time I read one of Louise Hay's books, You Can Heal Your Life. She said something about, like, it's a never-ending work. I'm still working on myself. And she was probably in her 70s by then. And I was so disappointed. I'm like, what? You mean my life is not going to be all fixed after I finish this book? Oh my God. So, but there's always another level for us to go. And so, unfortunately, we ended up in a place where we felt like we had nothing in common anymore. And I couldn't grow anymore if I stayed. I remember one of my brothers was very supportive, my youngest brother, and he was very sweet. And he goes, I know the speed of your growth, and if they can't keep up with you, then unfortunately they have to, jump off the train. And it was really hard, and it was a very tough and painful year. And I think a divorce, like a death, takes a good couple of years to get to a good place again. And but I also knew that in order to get to a high level of enlightenment, you have to go through a dark tunnel. So, if you can imagine the redemption tunnel, where they're walking through all the stuff and the rats and, toilet things. It's like I had to go through that tunnel in order to come out on a high level of enlightenment. And I'm very proud to say that Nick, my former husband, and I, we're best friends. We get along so well. Tony Robbins says the only difference between a friendship and a relationship, an intimate relationship, is intimacy. And so my former husband and I are, still best friends. We just don't have intimacy. But for the sake of the kids, both of us were able to leave our ego aside. And, he lives around the corner and we have house keys to each other's house, and we still do things as a family. We have Christmas and Easter and birthdays together as a family. And, we help each other. And it's really nice because I realize that for my kids, or I'm probably brave enough to say that for kids in general, it's not so much about seeing mommy and daddy kissing and sleeping together. It's about seeing mommy and daddy getting along. And, my parents are still together, but they never got along. And I hated being around that energy, because I remember when I had a boyfriend in university and we went to church, and then we saw his parents walking on the street holding hands. And I thought they were really weird, because I didn't see that with my parents. I didn't see that they're talking to each other, loving and nice and holding hands, and, and that really affected me. And so for me, I chose, what? I'd rather give my kids an example of a loving relationship, even if that means daddy with someone else and mommy with someone else, than for them to think that it's normal to live under the same roof and hate each other and argue and scream all the time. Right. And, it's great that my kids can have the two of us, that we can go to school as a family, that we can do all these activities and support each other. And, he'll come and have a drink with us by the pool here at home and, do all this stuff. And it's really nice because it's very rare. And people think that it's weird. It's not weird. I think it should be that way. But unfortunately, let the ego get on the way, and the poor kids are the ones that end up affected, And so that I'm very blessed and grateful that that's the case.
Yeah. So is this part of your 2 years that you said that you really had this challenging 2 years? The divorce was part of that 2 years?
Yes. So 1 year was, obviously for me, the hardest thing was first the pain, like you thought you're going to be for life with this person. And then second was having to face society with the news, I mean, God, I flew to Mexico with my kids to tell my parents, and my father was crying. My family adores him. And I mean, he's still part of our family, of course, and will always be. And that was just so hard. And then, it's a very good time to see who your good friends are and not, because we had just moved from Melbourne to Gold Coast. And in Melbourne, we had a lot of friends, very close friends, like family. In Gold Coast, both of us had no one. So imagine, I used to have a full-time job where I talked to people all day long, every day. So I had a lot of friends. We had a big social life. We belonged to the yacht club and went out on the boat sailing all the time. And we had all these friends. And then we get here, and now I'm working from home or I'm traveling. So I know no one. I don't have a job where I can go meet people. Same for him. He doesn't have the yacht club where he can go with his friends from, forever. And so I'm going through this pain alone. And then all of my friends are calling, and I can't even talk because I'll break into tears. So it took me 3 months to start taking calls. I was just constantly switching my phone off. And what was also painful is that some friends rang because they were genuinely concerned and they wanted support. But a whole bunch of them just rang to hear the gossip. And to see whether they're going to remain friends with him or with me, when the true friends stayed friends with both of us. And I hated that. And in that regard, I was really glad I was in Gold Coast and not in Melbourne, because that meant they couldn't come knocking at my door. I could just choose to switch the phone off or on or off, right. But I didn't have to see them. And so that was really, really hard, to just face society with the fact that, yeah, we were the best couple ever for 10 years and now we're not together. And then on top of that, he ended up moving to England for a year. And that was so hard because like I've got no one here. And so I started to say no to a lot of the speaking engagements so they didn't have to go away and leave them with nannies and things. And for one moment I thought, you know what, maybe the easiest is if I just quit all this and I go back and get myself a job. And then luckily my head kicked in and went, Sandra, that would be the worst thing you could do. Because first of all, I'm gonna have to put them in after school care or something because I won't be able to pick them up because I'm still working. They're gonna have to quit their afternoon activities, which they love. You know, they go to nationals with cheerleading and all that. And 3, what example am I gonna give my kids that I'm gonna be miserable because I'm not doing what I love? And you know, I've got to lead by example and show them that even when it's hard, you gotta do what you love, because doing what you love means it gets you through obstacles, it gets you through everything. And it's all of us, Jeff, I love sharing this story. All of us come to this life with a gift to share, right? There is what you call a skill, which is something you learn to do. And there is a talent. Talent is what is your natural born thing, right? So I didn't know my natural gift was to be a public speaker. I mean, I still had to go and get out of nervousness and nearly fainting and, you know, all of that. But then once I became good, I realized that's my gift. I inspire the people around me. I have the gift to uplift the vibration of energy so that anyone that comes to me for 5 minutes, they're going to feel better after they leave, just being in my energy field, right? And I hate cooking. I'm not good at cooking. I could learn it as a skill, but I'll never be as good as my former husband, who's an amazing cook. And it's a natural gift for him, you know. Someone who is not a natural gift to be a speaker, they'll learn how to do it as a skill and they'll be okay. They'll never be as good as someone that is their talent. And so think of it as you just arrived to your best friend's celebration party, and it's a huge celebration and it's very exciting. You arrive with this giant gift, all beautifully wrapped, and you walk in and you put the gift on the table with all the other gifts, and off you go, really excited to enjoy the party, and you dance and have a few drinks and talk, and the night comes to an end and you have to, it's time to go home, and you go back to the table with all the gifts. You pick up your beautifully wrapped gift and you take it back home with you, and your friend, your special friend, never got the opportunity to unwrap it and open it and enjoy what was in it. And sadly enough, many of us go through life without unwrapping their gift and seeing what it is and enjoying it and being able to share it with others. And that's what we came here to do, to find out what's our gift so that we can live into our life purpose and share it with the world. Because then when it gets tough, you're still willing to do it. Then those mornings where you don't want to get out of bed, you're still willing to do it because you're serving others. And at the same time, when you share your gift, you're allowing others and empowering others to unwrap their own gift and go and share it, whatever that gift might be. It doesn't have to be the same gift as yours, you know? And that I think is crucial. So that's when I went, no, it doesn't matter. I'm going to stick to it. I'm just going to reduce the amount of speaking gigs and stuff so I can be home more. And boy, that was really hard. I mean, imagine single mom running a business and, you know, not having any family or the daddy to help me with the kids. And it was really tough. Very little sleep that year, lots of tears. And thank God he came back. And, you know, now, of course, we have his help. And as I said, we're around the corner from each other. And it's like, and my little girl cry every night.
How long ago was this? How many years ago?
That was, he came back probably close to 3 years ago.
Okay. So since you've gone through that tunnel and you were visualizing and doing all this work on the other side before entering that tunnel, and now you're at this other side of it, talk about how that was. I mean, when you really started healing and things started clicking for you, of just, I don't know, but I'm just assuming some of the experiences that I've had, it just, everything just seems to be clicking into place. And it was just like the momentum and the energy and the vibration. What was that like for you?
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm a big believer of removing blocks. And however, some things work for some people, some things work for others. But emotionally, Jeff, we accrue a lot of blocks from things, maybe trauma, things that happened in our childhood, things that we saw, things that we heard, and sometimes they're not even related. For example, I realized that I had a lot of emotional blocks to do with like bullying when I was younger in school, because I was the only, blonde girl, green eyes in Mexico, and or my boyfriend in university, that I was madly in love with, and plus anything to do with the topic of, sex or relationships, because I was brought up very Catholic and you don't even mention those things. And so then I found this coach that he said he did meditation coaching. And I'm like, what's that? So I went to talk to him, and he told me to write down everything about my past life in my own language and to allow the tears whenever they came. And so as I was writing, I realized that I would start crying if I remember the time when my friends made fun of me because I was wearing these open shoes with socks, like the English people do. You don't do that in Mexico, apparently. And, just silly memories. But I realized that as I'm writing, they would open up this lid of a pressure cooker, and then I would just be like, wah! I remember I was still with my husband, we were traveling around Europe, and I spent a lot of time just writing and crying. But it was magical, because when I did that and I came back to see my coach, he removed a lot of those blocks that I started opening the lid with the writing. And then what happened, it showed up in the form of success and money and career. So it had nothing to do with like relationships or sex, but so what happened is many times something happens, and because we don't allow ourselves to live through the pain of that, it becomes, imagine a knot of black hair that blocks the pipe works, that stays in the subconscious, and that becomes an emotional block that it's stopping you now from moving forward in other areas of your life. Right. And, we have them all the time. Once you learn them, it's amazing, because then you go, oh, if I'm feeling this way, it's okay. I should just be vulnerable in public and cry, because if I try to hold it and pretend everything is perfect, it's going to become a block, and I'm going to pay the consequences later, right? And, plus, we all think about it. How was the world created? Dark was first. And then from the dark, they made the light. Right? Mm-hmm. How does the day start? The day starts at 12:01 in the morning, which is midnight. So the day starts with dark first, then it becomes light, right? So with that anger, we couldn't have happiness. Mm-hmm. With that fear, we couldn't have faith. With that, all of these things, with that hate, we couldn't have gratitude, etc. So we need to realize that it's part of the journey, that we're going to go through rough moments all our life, and that without those rough moments, we wouldn't have the big moments. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, if I want to share a little something, but if this goes too woo, just stop me, okay? And
please share.
When I was going through that really tough year, I came across I have very short attention span, so it's really hard for me to read books, because then I go, oh, what did I just read the last 3 pages? Like, I get distracted. So, but I love listening to audiobooks. Plus, I feel I can take a lot more, because I can do it while I'm cooking, riding my bike, at the gym, running, driving, blah, blah, right? So I'm constantly listening to stuff. And someone recommended this book called I may even have it here in my audiobooks. Crumbs, I really want to tell you the name. It'll come up in a second and I'll tell you. But basically, she talks about sacred paths.
Carolyn Myss.
That's sacred contracts, right?
Sacred contract, right.
That's it. Amazing audiobook. And so I'm listening to it. I remember very clearly my kids were having their swimming lesson in the afternoon. While they're swimming, I'm next door to them on the field, running and listening, and it was really powerful. She said that we have a meeting with our angel before we come to this lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so in that meeting, you sit with the angel and go, okay, let's say you're my angel, Sandra, what do you want to experience in this next lifetime? And I'm like, well, look, I already experienced this. So this lifetime, I like to learn maybe trust or resilience, or I don't know, let go of control, whatever, right? Okay, great. So who would you like to have as your parents to help you with this? Oh, well, I love to have my mom, Irma, and my dad, Marco, because they'll be really good at helping me with this. Okay, who else? And then the volunteers come, right? So then Nick comes and says, hey, Sam, I'll be your husband in this lifetime to help you learn the lessons. And then Jeff comes and goes, hey, Sandra, I'd like to just be your friend in this lifetime. And, you know, so, okay, we have all the pieces. And the big rocks are chosen, like who my parents are going to be, where I'm going to live, who I'm going to marry, blah, blah. But all the little details, you know, you can sort them out in your life. Okay, great. So then the angel, your angel sends you to have a bath in the river of whatever. And when you have that bath, you forget everything you discussed in the meeting. And then you jump off and off you come to this lifetime and you're born. And so the fun of life is to figure out, because I don't know what I discussed with my angel. I didn't know that my path was to be a public speaker. Now that I look back, it's like, duh, it was so obvious. When I was in primary school, I had it reading and memorizing. I was good with maths, but I had it reading and memorize. So the way I did it is I put the teddy bears on the living room of my parents. I stood up on the step, you know, like the stage, and I read out loud to the teddy bears because they never answered back. And that's how I would trick myself to memorize. Or, you know, university, like I would read the book my friends did, and we would hire a cubicle at the library, and then I would go teach them what the book said. And, you know, what you teach, you learn better. So then we all did really well in exam. And I really enjoyed doing all that. So now that I look back, it's like, duh, it was obvious I was meant to be a teacher. But when it's outside of your awareness, it's right here, but you can't see it because you've got the blinkers like the horse. And so the fun of life, I remember that day, a friend called me in tears, one of my ladies, for something. And I said to her, yeah, but imagine how boring would it be if you knew everything that's going to happen in your life and what you're supposed to do. You know, this is exciting part. And that day I felt so grateful despite the tough year that I was having, that this was cool. And then she also describes that she had 2 clients, both men, different times, different years, different locations, different everything. But both men described the same to her. And they said, I hate my life because I know everything. You know, I can't wonder if I want to move to San Diego, live here, because I already know I'm supposed to live here. I can't wonder whether I should date this woman or not, because I already know I'm supposed to marry this woman. I can't. And they describe the meeting with their angel, being told, go wash yourself in the river, and they run and they jumped over the river to skip it, and then they came down to earth to have a lifetime. So they never washed the memories. So the life is horrible because there's no, you know, wondering what's going to happen to my day today, getting excited every morning, going, oh, it's been another amazing day, but I don't know why. I'm excited for no reason. And, you know, I know some people, I tell this story and they go, okay, whatever. But for me, it just made so much sense at the time. And then I had like 3 different healers that told me that Nick, as part of my sacred contracts, that Nick and I had a contract for 10 years. And that was what we were supposed to do in each other's life. And interestingly enough, we had an amazing 10 years of marriage. The last 2, after the contract was finished, you know, there are contracts that are in a lesson. So you don't know if you're going to be with that person for 3 years or 30. The contract with that person is to learn a lesson, each of you. Right. And you can learn it the fast way or the slow and painful way. And you'll be with that person for as long as you meant. You know how people come and go in your life and you're like, nothing happened, but all of a sudden they're not around as much and whatever. You know, it's just this thing and it's just exciting. I mean, I love it. And, you know, as I said, any way that we can find to remove blocks, that's the way to do it. You know, like I'm not going through any tough moment right now, but I did notice that this year I overwhelmed myself with stuff because I just kept taking on new projects and new ideas and new this. And then I went, whoa, I'm not enjoying this. I'm flat out busy all the time. And that doesn't equal, many times we feel that because we're busy is good, but busy doesn't mean productive. And busy doesn't equal your income. And I just went, I need to slow down. And I literally committed that November and December are my take out of my plate things, and that I'm not going to force myself with any decisions until the new year as to what are my top 3 priorities, because more than 3 are no longer priorities, you know? So I had like 10 on my plate. No wonder I was just like doing everything, the jack of all trades and the master of none. So for me, it was like, Sam, just come back down. It's okay to sit by the pool for 2 hours and do nothing and just be present. And, you know, and I'm loving it. I'm giving myself the time to, I've got visitors right now from Germany, and I'm allowing myself to, you know, go on a weekday out on the jet ski because I can, and, you know, go shopping on a Tuesday because I can. Right. And so it's just working on that constantly.
That's awesome. So we're coming to the top of the hour, and what are 3 things, because you help women a lot, that's your client, that's who you specialize in. What are 3 things that you would leave as a takeaway for them on this journey? Because I've seen some of the people on here, and I've had conversations with a lot of them, and understanding that, as you said, sometimes having a message from a woman is going to have a much different impact than having the message from the man, right? What are 3 takeaways that you can leave with them that would help them step into really letting go of what's holding them back and stepping into their fullest potential?
I love that. I always like to give them homework on things that, you know, they can implement straight away and see results. And one of them, Jeff, for those that still feel they haven't unwrapped their present to see what it is, they haven't really discovered what their life purpose is, which could be just right there, you know, they just haven't realized. A really good thing that helped me and that I would love all of your audience to do is, as soon as we finish here, to go and text on the phone 5 p.m. Hey, Jeff, what do you think are 3 things that I'm good at? And they can be your friends, your coworkers, your staff, your parents, your ex-spouse. They'll be very honest about it. You know, anyone. It can be anyone. But text at least 5 people or 10, because you know what it's like. Half of them are too busy to get back to you. But just ask a question. Hey, Jeff, honestly, what do you think are 3 things that I'm good at? Because it's really cool. So you write it down in your piece of paper and you make 5 columns and you put 1, 2, 3, and then you go, okay, well, Jeff said this, this, and that. Sandra said this, this, and that. And then you're going to highlight all the ones that overlap. And that for me was the biggest sign of, oh, you know, when people start saying, oh, every time I feel down, I just come to see you and talk to you and I feel great after that. Oh, every time I'm around you, you uplift me. Oh, you're very motivating. Oh, you know, different words, but it was all the same. So when I highlighted and those overlapped, I went, maybe I'm good at this, even if my self-esteem wouldn't allow me to see, because of course, the little voice is always telling you you're not good enough, you're this. You know, when I wanted to be a speaker, it's like, come on, you're so short to be on a stage. You have an accent. No one is going to understand, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And so that's magic. If you're not sure yet what life purpose is, text 5 people and ask them, please tell me what are 3 things I'm good at. Once you have all the answers, so that's 15, 5 times 3. Is that right? Then you highlight everything that overlaps and then take a very good look at that, because that's a really good clue as to what's your natural talent that you have. Another thing I love them to do is compliments. You know, we're so fast at rejecting them. Oh, you look beautiful today. Oh, thank you. I haven't even showered. Like, I just say thank you. You know, oh, I love your skirt. Oh, it's so old. Oh, it's from Bali. I paid $5 for it. Oh, do you know what I mean? Like, we're very, or we go, oh, Jeff, I love bald guys, and oh, you look great being bald too. You know, like, we're rejected. Right. Why? Right. Because our low self-esteem. So our conscious mind doesn't let that compliment get through and be absorbed by your subconscious. So the next homework is, pay attention for the next 5 days. Anyone that gives you a compliment, force yourself to say thank you and smile and zip it. Don't say, oh, you too. I like your earrings too. Don't give them a compliment back, because that's like you just rejected it. And don't try and minimize the thing they just said they love about you. Oh, you're really good at this. Oh, but it's nothing. No, thank you. And smile. And it'll be really hard, you know, at the beginning, until you get used to it. So that's number 2. And number 3, I believe that everything has to do with self-love and self-esteem. If that's low, it's going to reflect on your outside circumstances, right? If that's high, then that works. And I realized a few years ago that a lot of the limiting beliefs and stuff came from my mom at the time. Well, at the time, she's still my mom, but you know, it's a completely different relationship now. But maybe the person that you spend the most time with as you're growing up. Mm-hmm. And so I flew to Mexico and I wrote this letter of saying all these beautiful things about me. And I asked her if she could please record it with her voice. So then I could listen to it at night and when I'm driving and doing everything to reprogram all my limiting beliefs and help me raise my self-esteem. Now, why at night? Because during the day, the conscious mind is awake. And the conscious mind is the guard of the castle that goes, I want to see the queen. You're not going to see the queen. I want to see the queen. You're not going to see the queen. And you're like sitting there wanting to see. But then at night, the guard gets really tired, falls asleep. And you silently go on your toes and jump over the guard. And then you get to see the queen. So at night, your conscious mind is sleeping. So you can tell your subconscious anything you want. Your subconscious is awake all the time. And your subconscious will receive it and will accept it. And so I used to play all this stuff at night so that my conscious mind can go, oh, bullshit, that's not true, you wish. You know, my subconscious would just take it. And I realized how I started to feel happier, to feel like, you know, I would look at the mirror, still me, but I went from looking at all my defects on my face to, oh, I think I look quite good. You know, nothing changed other than my self-esteem because I was putting more empowering things in my subconscious. And so that's probably a bigger step to take for someone that has never done any work on themselves. So the homework that I like to give you as the number 3, to go in front of the mirror. Oh. Are you there? Or am I frozen?
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's frozen. I'm like, to go in front of the mirror and put your timer for 1 minute, 60 seconds in front of the mirror and just smile and give yourself eye contact. And it's the hardest thing if you haven't done any work on, like, you know, self-esteem, because it can seem forever. Like, I have women that will call me in tears and they go, I did it for like 7 seconds and I just couldn't do it. And, you know, it's like, oh man, we're so hard with ourselves. So a full minute, 60 seconds, and you don't move until your phone beeps that it's 60 seconds. And you're just giving yourself eye contact, give yourself love through the eyes like you would to another person and just smile. Because the simple fact of working at these muscles sends a message to the brain to produce more, what's the thing that makes us happy?
Dopamine.
Dopamine and this, not serotonin is to sleep, isn't it? Anyway, so just the fact that we're, you know, moving those muscles sends a signal to the brain. So a whole minute of that inevitably will make you feel happier at the end of the 1 minute. And so that's the 3 homeworks. Text 5 friends, ask them 3 things you're good at. Thank you. Accept the compliment and say nothing else, and go in the mirror for 1 full minute and just smile to yourself.
Great. Those are great suggestions. And yeah, I totally agree with that. So how can they find out about Sandra and what she has to offer? Where can they go?
They can go to sandrabravo.live. And there's a few things in there. Do you know what I'm thinking? I just, this is a big book. It's 100 days because you're supposed to read 1 day every day to reprogram your habits, but it's too big. But this is my little girl, Brie, which you met.
That's good.
But the last one I just published is this tiny little thing. It's 22 pages, and it's a love letter to myself. And it's real. It's a letter I wrote for myself. I then recorded it, and then I play it at night. But I decided to publish because I figured it would be a great tool for people to, you can just go copy it and then just change anything. Like, you know, if I say something about my 2 daughters or something that is not applicable to you, you just change it. But I'm happy to send them the audio file for free, or I'm pretty sure it's still on the Kindle for 99 cents. Or I'm happy to just send them the PDF, you know, whatever you think will add value to your peeps. I'm more than happy to do so that they can start working on their self-esteem, confidence.
Great. Awesome. So if you could check back later, and Sandra, I'd love to have you back on again, because I could just see this is just getting good, and I can see that there's a little bit more to talk about. I want to ask you this before we go. Did you find MMI the same way I did, which was reading the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind?
No, over here, I was at Flight Center, and okay, so one of my staff members, an Indian guy, he didn't have a car, so he used to walk to work all the time. And remember, I told you in Melbourne the weather is like, so many times as I'm driving, I would pick him up on the way, and he realized every time I get in your car, I hear that you're listening to all these, empowering, motivational stuff. He said, "Have you heard of Tony Robbins?" And I said, "Who's that?" And anyway, so he put me into him. So then one day, one of my clients, she was my client at the travel agency, now she's my client in AmaSSSing, and said to me, "I love Tony Robbins." "I love Tony Robbins too." And so she said, "There's an event coming, and Tony Robbins is going to be there." And it was a National Achievers Congress. And I said, "You kidding me?" So the Titus, went and bought this ticket that meant I was at the back of 4,000 people, but it didn't matter. It means I could see Tony Robbins on the screen. My client, however, bought the ticket that you're on the second row at the very front. So the morning of the event, she feels sick and she calls me and said, "I'm not going, you can have my ticket." And I'm like, "What for? I have my own ticket." Yeah, big difference. So I had her ticket, and I remember walking in through the door I'm sitting at the back of 4,000 people, and the guy goes, "Oh, you got a good one, follow me." And we keep walking, and I'm going, oh, I'm getting for, and then I'm on the second row, and Tony Robbins is there, and I'm like, wow. So I thought I went there to see Tony Robbins, but then T. Harv Eker was speaking there, and then he sold us his Millionaire Mind Intensive, and I enrolled, and I went, this is exactly what I need to reprogram my blueprint for money and success. And that's how I went along. I don't even know if I ever read the book. Maybe I read it after, but the Millionaire Mind.
Great book. Great book. And that's why I asked, is anybody listening, if you have not read Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, highly, highly, highly recommend it. And in the back of it, there's a token so that you can attend an MMI event. I've attended an MMI event. Sandra's attended one. Transformed my life. Absolutely transformed my life. And it took a while. And I mean, it doesn't happen overnight, as you talked about. So Sandra, thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. And everybody, I want to also announce I got a new podcast up at thepotentialzoneshow.com, thepotentialzoneshow.com. Check out the latest episode that I just uploaded. And also have an amazing guest. We're going to change things up a little bit next week. It's going to be Monday night instead of Tuesday night. It's going to be Monday night at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and so that would be 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be Chris Widener. This guy is an incredible trainer, has trained lots and lots of network marketing, speaks. He's a pretty powered up guy. It's funny when I agreed with this with him, and it's kind of how you and I got to be as well. Going through my books, and here I had a whole DVD course by this guy that I bought probably 12 years ago, and now he's going to be a guest on my show. So it's the whole map thing and visualizing it. It actually works. It's pretty good. So everybody, thank you for being here, and join me again next Monday night at 4 p.m. Pacific time and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, Sandra, thank you so much. And if you could, anybody comments anything that they took away from this, and if you could come back and answer any comments that they would put up there, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Jeff.
Have a great night. Thank you again. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving.